just saying that there's only one way out. And that's the scary, uncomfortable way. And I'm not saying that it's easy, and I don't know, lies not in controlling what has happened, but in creating meaning from it. There's a piece of advice that can turn your entire perspective upside down, but most people avoid it. Being right isn't always what sets you free. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The first thing is the instinct to be right. So I've always had the ability to read the room, to sense what's expected of me, and to adjust to do what's, so to speak, right. But sometimes you meet people who are simply wrong. You know it in your bones, and in that friction, something deeper reveals itself. The line between what's right and wrong isn't a wall, it's more like a fog. You don't cut through it by simply shouting louder. You illuminate it like a flashlight. And so the essence is simple: to take away any problem and become free of it. Because being right isn't always what's most beneficial. Sometimes clinging to this righteousness or the rightness is the very thing that keeps you trapped. Which leads us to the second part, which is the trap of righteousness. I had a fairly good childhood, better than many, really. But even then, my psyche was kind of circular. I listened to people's words, not their meaning, which was a hindrance for a lot of times. And when I reached my teenage years, I began carrying a lot of emotional weight I didn't yet understand. I believed that if something was wrong, it should be corrected. That people, quote unquote, should change if it's the right thing to do. I had a good childhood, better than many, really. But even then, my psyche was circular. I listened to people's words, not the meaning of it. And when I reached my teenage years, I began carrying a lot of emotional weight that I didn't understand quite yet. I believed that if something was wrong, it should be corrected. That people should, quote unquote, change if it's the right thing to do. But then I never stopped to ask, what do I really mean by quote unquote right? And that question changed everything. Because I had started to resent my parents, not because they were cruel, but because I believed certain things that shouldn't have happened. My core belief was, it's not right to be treated like this. And holding on to that belief so tightly started to hurt me more than letting it go. I was so fixated on the justice that I forgot the peace. And you know, life isn't fair, and trying to force it into fairness is one of the most painful ways to live. Because there's just so much that you can't really control. So here's the turning point. One day, I questioned my own thought. What if it was their first time being parents? Then why did I expect them to know exactly how to do it with what they could do, like they were just doing with the resources that they had? They didn't have what I have now. They didn't have the tools, they don't have the internet, they don't have the language of psychology, and they parented from what they knew. Realizing that didn't excuse anything, but it liberated me. Because sometimes understanding isn't forgiveness, it's more of a perspective. It's a perspective shift that you take. So it's leading you to acceptance of the very thing that you feel so unfair about. And so here is the hardest example. Now let's take it to the extreme. Imagine someone who's been raped or deeply wronged. You'd say that that's not right. And you'd be correct for that, both on a legal level, on a moral level, and on an emotional level. But what happens when justice never comes? When the system fails to recognize your pain? When being right still leaves you broken? Now you're 25. You're carrying the trauma that no verdict could ever undo. It's unfair and utterly wrong. And yet, here you are, still living it. And so the question becomes, what now? What's the point of being right if you remain imprisoned by the emotions of unfairness and revenge and hatred? You see, being right doesn't always mean being free. At some point, you stop cornering yourself with righteousness and start to realizing that understanding is your only way out. Because you can't change people, you can't change their behavior. And so, not because it excuses the act of what they have done, but because it separates you from it. It gives you peace to see that someone capable of doing such thing is already deeply broken themselves. The only thing you have left after an experience like that, such as being raped, is your perspective and your ability to find meaning within that experience. And I'm not saying that it's easy, and I don't know how this works because I haven't been raped, luckily. But here's the freedom of meaning. Meaning doesn't mean erase the pain. It transforms it into a purpose. Maybe you use your story to help others who still are stuck in the same darkness that you have experienced. Maybe you should speak about it and not try to hide it behind some false positivity, but to alchemize it into something that helps people heal. Or like that you are the mentor. That's not denial, that's mastery. That's putting your experience to use with what you've got. Because understanding the roots of harm doesn't justify it. It gives you distance from it. It lets you see that your power now lies not in controlling what has happened, but in creating meaning from it. You can turn the same wound that silenced you into a voice that speaks freely. You can turn pain into perspective and perspective into peace. And the point was never to win the argument, it was to become free of it. That's what many people don't realize. And so you might sit here thinking, well, what do I do now? But Per, what does this have to do with anything? And this is the core essence of life. That you are your own greatest enemy. Things will happen to you. You will encounter problems, people, experiences, struggles, objections, why you can't do X, Y, Z. And that's your job to turn that pain to perspective and transmute it into something that's useful. Because when you get born, you are dealt a set of cards. And you sit there with the hand, with your 5 cards. And then the only thing you can do is to face the cards that you have and use whatever you have got right here. Not fantasizing about, oh, I would rather have a Jack of Spades, I would rather have a Queen of Diamonds, I would rather have an Ace of Hearts, because you can't change that fact. The only fact you can change is with the thing that you have got. And so it's very paradoxical how this works, and I'm not saying to you that you should be happy if you have been deeply wronged. I'm just saying that there's only one way out. And that's the scary, uncomfortable way. Not meaning that you should just tell all of your secrets to people and you should just face everything, but meaning that that is the directional aspect that you need to take in order to elevate your life. So one simple rule for acing life is doing what feels most uncomfortable doing. So if that thing is stop drinking alcohol, then do that. Try it, experience it, see how it is. If that thing is deleting social media because you are you have the fear of missing out, then do that. And I'm not saying it because you should listen to me. I'm saying it because as someone who have lived a lot of struggles, both with addictions, depression, and just being a human, right? I would have wanted for me to listen to this and to understand what I'm saying. Because you only create meaning from looking at the reference points in your life and seeing the pattern emerging within your consciousness, within your entire lifetime. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they would go their entire lifetime not facing this fact, not becoming aware of the greatness within them, because they believe some stupid belief that some teacher told them in 3rd grade, or because they look at the internet and see a lot of people having limiting beliefs, or they're comparing themselves to people who already have success. And I want to make this very, very grounding and not flash habits and achievements from my own life and just state that you should drink more water, you should stop scrolling, you should stop eating unhealthy food. Because of course you should also do that, and I should also do that. But am I doing it all the time? No, I'm not. Am I scrolling? At some times, yeah. At some points, yes. But all of these different habits and the things that you're seeing online is only the surface level stuff. And with them realizing this or not, when achieving anything or going through these trajectories, that is facing your own pain, you are learning that it's much more about how you're perceiving the thing rather than the thing itself. And simply put, you just don't know. You don't know what a friendship will lead to. You don't know what being open-minded and taking a psychedelic experience, what might lead to. You don't know if starting to drink would help. You can have your assumptions and I can have my assumptions, but that's for another topic. So go out and try. Go out and figure out what it is that your heart and soul is demanding of you and what your ego mind don't want to face. Not because I said so, but because you earned it. And you're here now, and you have the time, you have the possibility, you have the option, an infinite pool of options. But the question is, what will you do with it? And how will you perceive your problems? Are you taking the perspective as the creator of your life, the meaning? Or are you simply being a stubborn kid that want to be right because you've been wronged? Because I will say to you that no matter the amount of pain, you can be right to the end, like to the end of human history, and you can still end up no fucking where. And that's not what you want to do. I don't think so. And that's why I'm making these videos. Because I think there's a lot of bullshit online, and I think people are not real. People are not able to speak the actual truth. It's more like, you should do this, do that. I'm better than you because I have a 6-figure business and so on and so forth. And I want to bring back the human in our nature. So that's why I'm making these videos. And if you're unsure about what next, scan the code, fill out the form. It's free. You'll get early access to my upcoming tools and insights designed to help you get clear again.